Welcome back everyone. Today we'll be beginning with week 4 of the course Retail Marketing Strategy. See, as far as the last week was concerned, if you remember, we had a great discussion about the intersection between retailing and consumer behavior. We tried looking at it from various perspectives, like one was why would consumer buy certain products and services, or we looked at the consumer decision making process starting from the need recognition to finally post purchase behavior, where we also touched upon the facets of cognitive dissonance. Along with that, we also tried looking at why would certain prefer online channels or offline channels, right? And we also looked at the benefits that online channels provide vis-a-vis which offline channels provide. And we also touched upon the value that comes from these channels, whether that was from utilitarian motives or hedonic motives perspective. Along with that, in the end, we also touched upon the facets of customer centric approach, and we precisely looked at their tenets. So as far as last 3 weeks were concerned, I really hope that you enjoyed learning about the basics of retailing as well as the advanced concepts that we have touched. But now, as we are entering week 4, we'll be learning about again one of the most interesting topics, which is about private label brands. Now, what is most fascinating about private labels is that earlier they were considered as the cheap and nasty substitutes for national level brands, or you can say the brands which were basically manufactured by the well established marketers. But now the things are completely different. So as we get into this week's, we'll be definitely learning about the meaning of private labels. We'll also be delving into the various types of private labels that exist, and that indeed again is going to be a very fascinating discussion. Along with that, we'll also be looking at the transformation of private label brands. But before we move further and we start understanding all this war between private label brands and national level brands, and what are the benefits that whether it is consumers or retailers or manufacturers they derive from private label brands vis-a-vis the benefits that come from national level brands, we first need to understand the distinction between private label brands and national level brands. Now see, if I want to explain this, or to put it very simplistic, a private label brand is the one which is owned by the retailer itself. It is basically manufactured by the retailer, or it could even be outsourced. But as far as the brand name is concerned, it will always be sold under the retailer's brand name. In other words, it is also called as the store brand own label or distributor's own brand. I am again repeating it, as far as the private label is concerned, it is one of the brands which is manufactured or conceived by the retailer itself. On the contrary, if you talk about a national level brand, it is the one that is owned by a well known manufacturer and is a prominent or established product. These are controlled and manufactured by the national level players itself. But one kind of distinction which you can also consider is national level brands are going to be much popular in a generic way, right, as compared to private label brands. But you could also see a situation in which a private label brands, if it is extremely good and comes across as a value offering, which means it is available at a much lesser price as compared to a national level brand, then it can even outbeat a national level player or a national level product, right? So we'll be talking about some of the examples that if you talk about Levi's, it is indeed a national level brand. Rather, I would say it can even be considered as a global and international brand, which certainly it is. But when you talk about Westside Neon, it is indeed a private label brand. Koryo is also one of the examples of private label brand, which is owned by Future Group, which was later acquired by the Reliance Group, right? So let's understand this with one of the situations. Let's say what you see on screen is the snapshot of a Kalpataru Jain store, which is based in Raja Park, Jaipur. Now let's say when you enter this store, along with Kisan Jam, what you see is Kalpataru Jam. Along with Kisan sauce, what you see is Kalpataru sauce. Along with Tata Salt, what you see is one of the brands by the retailer itself, which is called as Kalpataru Real Salt. Another brand could be Kalpataru Juice brand, which could be offered as a substitute to real juice. Now let's say all the products which we have discussed, whether it is about Kalpataru jam, Kalpataru salt, and likewise, these can be considered as an example of private labels, which indeed means the brands which are manufactured by the retailer itself. Now in this case, I use the term Kalpataru to bring in that connectivity and kind of establish the meaning of private labels. But it is not going to be the case that a retailer will be using the name of the retail store itself. The brand could be given a different name as well. Now let's further delve into this. Now what you see on screen is Snack Tak, which is one of the private label noodles brand and is owned by Reliance Group. Precisely, we can say is available at Smart Point, right? But now what you see is Nestle Maggi, which is one of the well established and national level brands. Now Snack Tak, which is owned by Reliance Group, is a private label brand, and the other snapshot which you see of Maggi is a national level brand. So I hope you got a perspective about the national level brands as well as private label brands. Now Koreo, as I was saying in the beginning, is also one of the examples of private label brands. But another thing which we need to understand is, as compared to earlier times, that even private label are emerging as brands. Even the marketers or retailers would try to give it more of the feel of a brand and bring in a feel good factor when consumers precisely use it, right? Now, as I was telling you, there was a certain dichotomy earlier. In earlier times, many people felt that private labels are basically cheap and nasty substitutes. Like they would only buy private labels when they don't have that much income, or let's say in that particular time they didn't have that much disposable income that could be for variety of other expenses that they have incurred. So they felt that only in these situations people would be buying private label brands, whereas national level brands have captured the market and were basically considered as the symbols of quality, trust and affluence. Now affluence in this case simply indicates the richness belonging to a certain class or prosperity, which means national level brands were basically meant for rich people or who belong to a certain class, whereas as we were discussing, private label brands were basically seen as only cheap substitutes that did not have that much quality and that could not be even relied upon much. Now, if you want to learn more about such interesting things about private label, I would urge you to go and read or first find the book Private Label Strategy, which has been written by Kumar and Steenkamp. This again is one of the fascinating books when it comes to understanding the core of private label brands. Right now, as we move further, another thing which you need to understand is now the things are completely different. Now private label brands are not seen as substitutes for, rather cheap substitutes and nasty substitutes for national level brands. They have rather kind of made great strides when it comes to the quality and are even emerging as the brands which are now emerging in the or occupying a space in the preferential list of the customers, or to put it more technically, or being retailing students or marketing students, we can say they are now emerging or occupying a space in the consideration set of the customers, right? So what you see on screen is the fact that private label brands have indeed been very instrumental in changing the retailing landscape and making the competition more fierce. This key point has basically been derived from one of the key research papers on private label brands by Kuno et al., which was published in 2019. Now let's see, we were talking about Reliance Smart when I gave you the example of the noodles where we were comparing Snack Tak with Nestle. Now let's read these particular sentences from this snapshot. Further strengthening the value proposition, Smart Store offers Reliance Retail private brands. Our private brands offer product choices across 110 categories spread over staples to processed foods and beverages, personal care, cosmetics, fragrances to health, hygiene, fabric, home care to home decor range. Good Life, Snack Tak, Yeah, Desi Kitchen, Puric, Enzo, Get Real, My Home, Samvad, Glimmer, Petals and Happy Living are some of the private label brands which are diligently crafted and quality tested products offering outstanding value proposition. Now see, first one point which definitely becomes clear is they have made the competition much fiercer. Now I'll give you more examples of this when we move further. But again, one thing which you really need to understand in this case is they are clearly highlighting that what these brands offer is a outstanding value proposition, which means they are indeed at par with national level brands when it comes to quality, or maybe you can show the same trust to these brands, but the prices which are being charged are less as compared to the national level brands. So this again is one of the most fascinating things when it comes to private label brands. Now let's say when we are talking about Good Life, which is one of the private label brands by Smart Point or Reliance. Now they are available in categories like powdered spices, whole spices, flours, sugar, salt, dry fruits, cooking oil, rice and pulses, all these options. Now why I specifically read this is to indicate the categories in which they will be competing with national level brands. Now in terms of spices, Good Life is competing with MDH, Everest, right, and other spices brands. When it comes to oil, they are competing with Fortune, Mahakosh, Dhara, Saffola, Nature Fresh and all these brands. Pulses, Tata Sampann, or could be Patanjali. And when you talk about flours, they could be competing with Ashirwad, Organic Tattva, Nature's Fresh. And finally, even when you consider the category of rice, they are competing with India Gate, Dawat, and 24 Mantra Organic, and there could be a number of other brands also. Now, just imagine the competition is happening on which level, and when the scholars said that private label brands have indeed made the competition much more fiercer, they can't be more right with respect to the discussion that we just had. Now, see, as we move further, private labels definitely had a journey from, being nasty and cheap substitutes to being value offerings or being in the consideration set of the shoppers, or something which was even preferred by the consumers over and above national level brands. So, we'll be looking at this transformation now. So one thing is, private label brands now compete on quality. Low quality private labels do exist, nobody is denying that, but as far as quality is concerned, private label brands have indeed made great strides. We can consider the example of Tasty Treat, a brand owned by the Future Group. Walmart Sam's Choice is one of the private label brands which belongs to Walmart. As far as detergent category is concerned, it has been considered better even than Tide. Now, Kroger's potato chips have also been considered better than Pringles. So, just for your information, I have put in one of the snapshot, Kroger's classic wavy potato chips. This brand has even been considered much better than Pringles, which is one of the national level brands. But can you think of the private labels in India, or the private label brands that are popular in India, or as far as your experience is concerned, some brands that you could even consider better than national level brands? But in order to talk about this further, we first need to understand the private label brands that are popular in India. Now, as far as Big Bazaar is concerned, Tasty Treat, Fresh and Pure, Premium Harvest, Tasty Mate, Koreo are all private labels. Then some examples have also been given for more, like Kitchen Promise, Vishal Megamart, V Fresh, We Need, Shoppers Stop, Stop Life, Mario Zagnotti, Push and Shove, Veterio Fratini, and when you get to Pantaloons, Akriti and Bare Urbana could be considered as their popular private label brands. So you can also see this on the screen. Snapshots are being provided for the private label brands by Pantaloon. Now the next one which you see is for Shoppers Stop, which is Vittorio Fratini, and it also stays up your fashion quotient, which means they are trying to kind of build a perception that it is all about for the people or happening people who want to up their fashion game. The next one which you see is obviously Tasty Treat. Now even in this case, just see the product categories in which they might be competing with. They are competing in the category of soup, in which it could be a competition to Knorr. They also have a product category of products. They also have pasta as a product category which could be competing with, again, Nestle. Then you also have Suji Rusk. Then you also have a mango drink which could be competing with Maaza, and likewise other brands. The whole idea is to give you a snapshot. The competition has indeed been made more fiercer or challenging as far as the private label brands are concerned. But see, it's not like only the brands that have a physical existence or are majorly operating through brick and mortar retail shops only have private labels. Even online retailers or e-tailers have not been far behind with respect to launching their private labels, and you will understand this why even they didn't want to be left behind with respect to launching private labels when we'll have a discussion about the benefits, or I would say the competitiveness which private labels bring. Now, if you look at Flipkart Smart Buy is again one of the popular private labels by Flipkart, and they are also dealing or providing a lot of product categories which you might not have even been aware of. So they are providing products in the category of home furnishings. The next snapshot which you see is of coolers. Now Orient and Flipkart Smart Buy are basically competing with each other, and you can also consider other coolers brand in this category. Along with that, they are also competing in product categories like electronic home appliances. Then you also see one of the brands which is basically in the category of tempered glass. Now just imagine in which categories they are competing as far as the national level brands are concerned. Now Amazon is also, one of the pioneers when it comes to private label brands. Now what you see on screen is again one of their popular private labels, Solumo, which is again available with respect to muesli. Along with that, they are also offering products in categories like home furnishing, then foldable wardrobe, even tissues, in hand washes, soaps, and all these things. Now just imagine the categories in which they are competing. The same goes with Flipkart Smart Buy as well, and definitely even Alexa, Echo Dot, which is one of the most popular products of Amazon, is also one of their private label brands. Now let's look at this particular study. I was telling you that how private labels have emerged better when it comes to quality. So in one of the German study which compared the technical characteristics and quality across 50 consumer product categories, they found out that 50% highly discounted private labels were much better than even national level brands or even exceeded the product quality. Now you can just see the journey which private labels had. And even Kroger came up with a very catchy tagline, try it, like it, or get the national brand free. Now, even if you consider this is more about fostering trust and confidence that our private label brands are much better than national level brands also in certain product categories which a retailer like Kroger was actually claiming. So this is how they were doing it. In various aisles or various different products were being presented. For specifically similar products, they would display their products in adjacent aisles, and they would also put these tags which was about brand guarantee, try it, like it, or get the national brand free. Now you can just imagine on what level the competition was getting fiercer, or I would say more stronger, because the claim was direct that we are much better than the national level brands, and if you think in terms of your experience we are not at par with them or you didn't like us, then you can take the national brand for free. See that this particular, I would say, strategy was all about fostering confidence, and once customers started trying the private label brands and they, let's say, and if with time they develop a preference over us, and then definitely your profitability will be touching next levels. Now this again is one of the popular strategies as we just discussed. Now another transformation which happened in case of private labels indeed is that they are now emerging as brands. Large retailers are heavily investing in branding activities. We also saw this in case of Kroger's just now. Now Tasty Treat is being endorsed by a huge Bollywood star in India, which is indeed Varun Dhawan. Now Tasty Treat stands for a simple world where sensory pleasure derived from consuming delicious food overrules the rational idea of eating right. But in order to understand how they are branding it or how they are kind of trying to bring Tasty Treat in direct competition with national level brands, we'll have a look at this video, which is all about understanding how the particular product Tasty Treat is being marketed. So we'll first have a look at this video and then we'll be moving forward.
चक 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 चटैक टेस्ट का अटैक एलबीनो पे पका नाचो खाके नाचो डरता नहीं किसी से भी बनना मैं तो माचो चक 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 चटैक टेस्ट का अटैक नफरत मिक्स खाके मैंने मारा सिक्स बनाना का चिप्स मुझे आज खाना फिक्स लेता हूँ मैं बहुत ज्यादा रिक्स ड्राई फ्रूट मिक्स अचारी का तड़का है सुपर हिट बग 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 शट द चका पोटैटो का चिप्स में तो फुल टाइम मंचिंग मुझे कोई रोका तो मैं फुल पावर पंचिंग चक चटैक टेस्ट का अटैक चक चक चटैक टेस्ट का अटैक पॉपकॉर्न लाया मैंने देख डॉपकॉर्न बता मुझे ये रॉक कौन करूं ऐसे मैच जैसे शॉटगन गोली चले रे टेस्ट ट्रीट नमकीन चक 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 चटैक टेस्ट का अटैक.
Now I really hope that you enjoyed looking at the video of Tasty Treat, and indeed it was a fun marketing campaign. Now another thing which we need to understand in case of private labels is that now the focus is being heavily laid on emotion and imagery, as in retailers are trying to build in a perception that these are equally at par with the national level brands, and these can also be treated as synonymous to, let's say, trust, quality and affluence, which was earlier only the case with national level brands. It is no more about just offering a lower price when it comes to private label brands. Now as far as this is concerned, I would urge you to go and read this fantastic article which has been written by Kevin Lamb and is all about the complete guide to Amazon private label brands. And when you will be going through this article, you will be learning a lot more exciting things, that Amazon now has over 100 private label brands like Amazon Essentials, 206 Collective, Solimo, Mountain Falls. And as far as Amazon is concerned, their private label journey started in 2009, and even at that time, or in some of the researchers, it has been said that they captured 1% of the total sales, whereas in specifically in the year 2017 to 18, Amazon's private label brands definitely saw a growth of 81% as far as the sales of private labels were concerned in different product categories. Now this is all about India's private label journey. Historical offline retailers have leveraged private labels as a tool for profitability, mainly on account of higher margins and ease of customer acquisition. See, again they are trying to foster the same thing, that gone are the days when private labels were only kind of brought into the market or offered to customers simply with respect to offering a low price substitute, which means they would easily buy, or the price sensitive shoppers would easily buy that. But then definitely there was a rise of private label brands in offline retail. The share of private labels is category dependent and could range up to 90% for fashion, approximately 50 to 20% in food, and 8 to 10% in general merchandise. The number of private labels is dependent on the width category assortment for offline retailers. In certain categories with low brand presence, private labels have become mainstay brands. Large format retailers have also indicated that introducing private labels help them improve margins through increased scale. See, one thing why private labels could be considered better is you control them, you can control the marketing expenses, right? And the share of profits is not being shared with any of the middlemen or the manufacturers. That's why the situation gets much better off when we talk about private labels. So as far as this report is concerned, the link for the same has been provided in the slide. I would again urge you to go and read more about it, and trust me, you will again be learning a lot more exciting things specifically with respect to the private label dynamics in India, right? So this snapshot, which has been derived from Statista, provides a view of the private label categories in India as of May 2020 by growth rate. So a major growth has been seen as far as the private labels are concerned in the category of breads, tissue papers, phenyls, cakes, nail enamel, cleaners, glasses. See, now these are a few product categories in which you might see consumers not being very brand conscious, right? That's why you see a huge growth in these particular product categories. Even pickles, cleaners, packaged rice has also been considered as a few product categories in which there was a growth as far as the private label categories were concerned. Now this snapshot provides you a growth of the private e-commerce labels in India from the year 2016 to 19 with estimates from 2019 to 22 by product category. Now particularly in this case, if you see in case of wellness products, there was a jump of around 50%. Now even when you look at the category of apparels as far as private labels are concerned, there was a growth by 5%. Likewise, if you see in case of consumer durables, there was a growth by almost 10%, whereas a decline was seen in case of grocery products. Now this is one problem why the sales fell as far as groceries were concerned, is something which can be looked upon by the retailers or even researchers. Now this snapshot also provides a view of the online repeat purchases of private labels. Now see, in case of cosmetics, it was around 75%, apparel 70%, jewelry 70%, wellness 55%, grocery 50%, and even furniture 50%. Now you can just imagine these products are indeed being liked by customer. That's why you see that loyalty or repeat purchases, right? So again, this squashes the myth that consumers only prefer national level brands. There is a growing segment of customers or a major population who is indeed preferring private label brands for a lot of benefits that they bring in, right? Now I thought, when we are discussing so many fascinating things about private labels, let me dig in some research and bring in some insights from the growing private labels research. So the first one is, private label brands have indeed made the markets much more competitive, and we have definitely discussed about this. We definitely saw when it comes to Good Life the number of product categories in which it was competing with, starting from spices to finally getting into various rice brands as well. Another thing is, private label brands provide a chance to companies or retailers to differentiate themselves from their competitors. See, once the private label has become popular, let's say if we consider the example of Kroger chips, which were considered better than Pringles, now the consumers, if they like it or they have developed a liking for it, will only be coming to Kroger's, right? So it definitely gives a chance to the retailers to differentiate themselves, but also allows them to win the loyalty of the customers. And they also indeed result in higher margins and greater profitability, because the marketing expenses are in your control, and even no percentage of profits is being shared with the manufacturer or any other middleman. And as I just said, when consumers have developed a preference for private labels, they will be definitely coming to your retail store only, because these are not available anywhere else. So they indeed give a huge push to store loyalty. Now let's look at some of the top reasons for buying more private brand products. The private brand products has equal quality for less money, which indeed, as I was saying, are basically value offerings. They are at par. If they have been manufactured right, or by keeping all the things in control, then they definitely offer a very kind of at par quality as compared to the national level brands are available at a lesser price. So we all know, then why consumers would prefer them. They are indeed cheaper, good enough for everyday use, is often on promotion or special deals, because everything is in control of the retailer. They can decide on the promotions. And the other thing is, if you achieve economies of scale or the production level reaches the next level, then definitely the cost decreases, and then you will be able to offer these products at much more discounts as compared to the national level brands. Another reason was private brand has products more suitable for my needs. They have been recommended by friends, definitely word of mouth. Now that can be e-word of mouth also, or word of mouth in general in physical circumstances. Now let's say if someone tries a private label brand which is available at a much lesser price as compared to a national level brand and could also be very good in quality, then you will definitely see the snowball effect of positive word of mouth, and you will see a lot of people coming and buying it forward. The private brand has the newest or latest products, the usual brand was not available. Now this again is one of the reasons for which people bought private label brands. Now we'll be having a discussion about the reasons behind growing acceptance of private labels, or how they are occupying a such important space when it comes to the consideration set and preferences for the customers. Now first is, private labels indeed have been recognized as a means to smart shopping. And why not? You are getting one of the best products for lesser prices, and even of the equal or at par quality as far as the national level brands are concerned, and many times they could even be better. So in order to sum up why they are being recognized as a way to smart shopping, is simply because they are available at low prices, best deals come in, and they have at par quality. Specifically in apparel shopping, Financial Times noted that it is all about smart consumerism now, which means how you are trying to derive maximum benefit for the every rupee spent, or rather to put it in a best perspective, it is all about how you are trying to derive the maximum value for every rupee spent, and private label brands definitely fit in that criteria. And one of the German electronics retailers, Saturn, even used the slogan "Geese is Zeal," which means thrifty is stimulating, which means there is definitely a certain kind of joy when you buy products at lesser prices and you end up saving some money. Along with that, there is again one of very fascinating facets about private label brands. You know that it was once said that people would only buy private labels when there is a recession, right, in the economy, or let's say when people are not left with much disposable income to spend or buy products and services, only then they'll be buying private labels, but this has not been proven till date. However, the share of private label brands have increased in all economies in the last 30 to 40 years. One of the Harvard professors, John Quelch, argued share of private labels generally goes up when the economy is down, and down when the economy is growing. But this indeed has not been proven till date. Rather, it was proposed that private label share increases after and extensively during a recession, then in expansionary phase, which means that it's not like people are only going to buy private label brands when there is a recession. It's not like this. People will indeed be buying private label brands in an expansionary phase, or I would say in period of boom also, once their preferences have been developed. That's why the German weekly Stern once wrote, "The harder times better off LDS." LD is again one of the leading retailers on global markets. Now the whole idea is, see, whenever we are looking at this statement, the harder the times the better off LD is, what they are trying to say is, when there is a recession, then for LD it are all good days, because people would be rushing more to LD to buy more of products, specifically the private label brands, which eventually kind of inflates their profitability to the next level. So as I just mentioned profitability, now profit migration in case of private labels. Now if you talk about apparels, if there is a branded sales, the margin is 35 to 40%, whereas in case of private labels it is 60 to 65. Now just imagine the distinction between the profit margins that exist in case of national level brands and private label brands. So even retailers end up earning a lot more, right? In case of grocery, it is 7 to 10% in case of branded sales, whereas in private labels 10 to 14. Likewise in furniture, it is again so high, 45 to 50% in case of private labels, and only 18 to 20% in case of national level brands. Likewise for cosmetics, 70 to 75%. Now this has even touched the roof, whereas in case of branded sales, it is 25 to 30%. Now this again definitely gives you a clear indication why would retailers prefer or push private label brands, because their profitability gets so much high because of the available margins. Right. Now, as far as this is concerned, the same report has been highlighted in the slide as well. I would again request you to please use this link and read more as far as this report is concerned, because this will again give you much more insights about the private retailing dynamics as far as India is concerned. So finally, we are ending this session. Now, as we move forward in the next session, we'll be learning about the various types of private label brands, and trust me, you will be surprised to see that there are so many categories even in private labels, whereas you might have thought, private label brand is just has one type or one category. This could have been your thought process. Along with that, I'll also tell you a very fascinating difference between the copycat, me too and counterfeit products, and that again is going to be one of the most insightful things that we'll be learning. So looking forward to meeting you in the next session. Wishing you a good day for now. Thank you.